Live from clickorlando.com, this is News 6 at 5:30. This is a News 6 Plus takeover. Here now is Matt Austin and Ginger Gadsden with Florida's Fourth Estate.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Florida's Fourth Estate. Imagine The Martian. Do you remember the movie with Matt Damon?
With the potatoes, and he gets really skinny.
He was living in a habitrail, and he had to farm his own food, and we know how that went.
Yeah.
But imagine that, but underwater. I feel like that's what our guest today is doing. He's kind of on Mars, but on Earth, underwater.
That was the weirdest intro ever. He's on Mars, but on Earth. And,
underwater.
But it's true. He is isolated, and he's doing it all like Matt Damon did for science. Since we're going with this theme right here, we want to introduce you to Dr. Joseph Dituri. He is 22 feet underwater down in the Keys, and he's doing it all to maybe come up after 100 days as a superhuman. He's testing how this impacts your cells. You know, it's a podcast. I have to be a little dramatic.
Yeah, okay. He thought my thing was ridiculous. His was more ridiculous.
We're both ridiculous. Welcome to the show, Dr. Dituri. Thank you so much for joining us from your underwater cave there. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm so good. It's criminal. I just love my life on a daily basis. I get to do outreach like this to the general population, the community. And who had this voice before this? Nobody. So we're doing great things.
Never heard of something like this until you were brought to our attention. Now, as we're doing this podcast, you are on your 24th day. Have you even started to notice, is it too soon to notice any changes, or what have you been experiencing so far?
How much detail can I go into? Because
as much as you want.
There's been an increase in frequency and amount of urine that comes out that we have experienced on several different parts, several different people.
He's peeing more. All right.
Yeah, and with greater frequency and with greater urgency, because the supposition is that we're pushing against a static head that is at a greater pressure. I'm at about 25 psi. You guys are at 14.7 psi. So I'm under a higher pressure, so it's harder to push against that. That's the supposition at this point. We're actually just doing this kind of science and just trying to figure it out. That's anecdotal. But yeah, we took a whole bunch of blood, urine, saliva before, during, after, all psychosocial testing. So we're doing some fun stuff. Fun if you're a researcher.
Yeah, fun if you like to be by yourself. So why would you even sign yourself up for this? I get science. We're all interested in like hyperbaric chambers and how pressure impacts our cells. And we're going to talk about that. But why would you decide that for 100 days, you're going to lock yourself in? I don't even know what this thing is. I have so many questions. Okay, so let me start with why you would agree to do this.
So here's the bottom line. It was December 24th of 2012, and James Cameron team had invited me out to his house to go look at his submersible, figure out its intrinsic value. I was working on that and writing the report, and we had pulled a DNA sample off of one of the things that he found at 35,000 feet, and it was a partial cure for Alzheimer's. The DNA existing naturally at the depth of 35,000 feet was a partial cure for Alzheimer's. At that point, I said, December 24th of 2012, I said, everything we need is on this planet. I said, we have yin, we have yang, we have disease, we have cure. It's all here. I said, we have to live in the ocean. That was it. 10 plus years ago, I said, we have to live in the ocean. So it's been a uphill battle to get here, and COVID got in the way. We were going to do it in 20, and then, like everything else.
Yeah.
You knew you had to do something like this, and it's been quite a while now. Tell me how you get ready and how long you've been preparing, not just, knowing that you're going to do it, but physically and mentally, I would imagine. How have you been preparing to do what you're doing right now?
So interesting enough that everything in my life has literally pointed me to this particular opportunity. I was in the Navy for 28 years. I did special operations diving and specifically saturation diving. Towards the end, I made and built habitats for underwater or things that would be pressurized vehicles for underwater. I became a submersible sort of an expert, living underwater sort of an expert, and then I retired. And while they offered me a really good job at U.S. Special Operations Command, I decided to go back to school and get a PhD in biomedical engineering and fix traumatic brain injury. And you're like, wait, where does traumatic brain injury have anything to do with where you are right now? I treat traumatic brain injury at the same pressure that I'm at right now because it increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor and insulin growth factor and all the other things that are involved in fixing traumatic brain injury.
Wow. So that's that's a connection that I don't think a lot of people would make, is that what you're doing now is following your ultimate passion, helping people with traumatic brain injuries, specific veterans, which of course you are, and we appreciate the time you spent, which was a lot of time. So tell me about this thing that you're sitting in. Is this a man-made structure? I can't tell. All I can really see is a window looking at you. How is this thing 22 feet under?
That's right. So this is basically a big barge that into which 50 years ago, this icon in diving research named Jan Koblik, he put this stuff together and made this habitat so that he could live in it. And he did underwater expeditions at that time, not nearly as long, not nearly as, whatever, arduous, whatever. But he actually did this 50 years ago. This thing has been in existence. And I dove in this particular habitat 20 years ago, I think, was my first overnight stay in this habitat, maybe 25 years ago now. So it's been in place in Key Largo for a while, but now we're sort of developing it. What it is it's 2 cylinders that are basically 8 feet in diameter, and they are about 18 feet long, but really the usable space is a lot less than that. Let me take you on a tour if you got a minute.
Oh, we got
it. Yeah.
Don't move. All right. So I have my science junk there, my EEGs, my EKGs, my pulmonary function test machines, and this is me walking around. And basically we have a small refrigerator. That is the freezer. You can see how big it is. And that is the fridge. So it gets stocked, and I try and live as isolated as possible. And they bring me down stores, and I store the stores. But if I had more storage space, we'd be able to do this more autonomous. Coffee, because by God, nothing happens without coffee.
And a French press back there.
Oh yeah, that's for if I have a visiting guest. And then that is a microwave, which is the only way you can cook down here. Because of the increase in pressure, there's an increase in fire risk. So we do not want to have anything that heats. So you see these guys back here, this is this habitat when it was a lot more sparse. So you can see there are 4 racks, and this is the midsection all flooded. But that's this side. And then if you look right down here, that is my exit. So I go down through that exit, and you have to be really good at yoga, like bending, folding.
You fit in that little bitty hole there.
How tall are you, sir?
Yeah, you're a big guy.
I'm 6'1", 220 pounds.
Oh, no, thank you.
Right? So now I'm standing up in this space here, but this is a very tiny space. You have a potty because, what goes in must come out. But it's just like the bathroom on a, on a trailer like or a camper. Yeah. It has to be macerated. So now in here, you hear it's really loud. So I'm going to duck down because this room is 5'9". So I'm totally ducking. And that is the moon pool. That's how you get in and out of this habitat. And what it does is it sucks out the gas or sucks out the carbon dioxide from there, and it bubbles it out. And then here I have a tiny shower that is so small you have to leave it to change your mind. And this is my bedroom. I have a twin bed on the bottom, and that is the bigger bunk. That bunk on the top, it is 1 foot less wide than a twin-size bed. So that is teeny. My shoulders don't fit in that bed. Thank goodness I get the twin bed on the bottom. And then there's the visiting scientist cabin, and we found Nemo. Look, he's right there.
Stay with us as our tour continues. How Dr. Joseph DeTore hits the gym underwater. Welcome back to Florida's Fourth Estate, where researcher and scientist Dr. Joseph Dettori has been giving us a tour of his underwater oasis.
So I'm going to duck down because this room is 5'9", so I'm totally ducking. And that is the moon pool. That's how you get in and out of this habitat.
He is doing cutting-edge research while living underwater. Let's get back to the conversation.
And I'm just blown away by how happy you are. I was expecting you to look like
He's alone.
Tom
I get
Hanks.
it.
I thought you'd have a bloody volleyball and you'd be miserable. What is happening? How are you so happy?
So let me tell you what, honest to goodness, we're doing science. So I'm doing science, and this is kind of my jam. Like, I retired from the Navy and I decided I was gonna do this kind of stuff. And when I'm doing this, I'm like, this is just the energizing part of life. When you find your passion, it's like, I'm actually paying to be down here to do the research that I'm doing. Nobody's paying me, right? So this is not a funded expedition. I'm literally paying. So I get to pay to do this kind of stuff and to do the research and give it to people. But, you know, something you said was very profound right in the very beginning. You said, hey, it's like he's on Mars. Well, incidentally, so my master's is in astronautical engineering, right? So I know a little bit about that, and I teach bioastronautics. So when you go through and go to Mars, it's going to take at least 200 days. So people are like, why is the mission 100 days long? Well, it's 100 days long because I couldn't get the funding to go 200 days, but we're doing everything that's analogous to space travel. For instance, we travel in space, we use these resistance bands to work out. And like you guys see me, like, I'm a guy, I need to work out. It's my thing. I have to do that.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're testing these blood pressure cuffs, or they're basically blood pressure cuffs that restrict the blood flow into and out of the extremities on your body. And thereby, when you use these bands to do your workout with, which they have on the International Space Station, these resistance bands, you can actually build muscle instead of losing muscle like they do on the International Space Station. And that in turn helps you build bone, which is what they lose on the International Space Station. So we're trying to help astronauts get to Mars. It's just a long process to get there. And look, I'm in an isolated, confined, extreme environment, and I figure we should work it out here on Earth before we go to Mars. I mean,
I'm curious, so obviously people are bringing you food and supplies for 100 days. What happens? What is that process like when someone obviously dives in to give you the food? Do they just say nothing to you? Do they check your vital signs? What is that process like when you actually get to see a human?
Oh, yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. While I am in an isolated, confined, extreme environment, I do have contact with humans on a regular basis. The phone and the internet keep me very well connected. So that phone right there goes to the surface, and it doesn't have a dial pad. You just pick it up and it rings. And Mission Control is right upstairs. And they watch me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they're like, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? And, so you're telling them everything. But the internet, I have the internet so that I can have interactions such as this and tell people. But there's really three things that we're doing down here. When I tell you that I'm doing biomedical research on myself, I'm a biomedical engineer and I'm doing biomedical research, of course. But the other thing is we're doing outreach so that we can get kids to understand about preservation, protection, and rejuvenation in the marine environment. Because this little ocean right here that I have right out my window, it produces between 50 and 70% of all the oxygen that's produced on Earth. So if we don't take care of this place, it's going to revolt. I mean, that's the God's honest truth, right? So, and that being said, I bring down some of my friends who are, pioneers in the diving industry. Sylvia Earle is coming down, ichthyologist, marine scientist, benthic geologist, coming down and talking about their passion, how they preserve, shark experts, so that we could demystify this thing, reduce some of the fear about diving in the ocean. And I mean, so the other day I was here and I had a girl swim down, a little 13-year-old girl, swim down. She's trying to high-five me. She did not give up. God bless that girl. She did not give up. And she high-fived me right in that window. And I was like, I took a selfie right here with her there. And I was like, good for her. I sent it to the surface and she saw it and she started crying. And I was like, no, you didn't give up. Good for you. Like, everybody's like, what if you don't make it to 100 days? I'm like, Did you see what we did with the little girl? I'm like, I'm done. We're good.
Yeah.
Let's call it the day.
Yeah. Oh, that's really, I love that.
What do you miss the most? Like if you could go back up to the surface and maybe say snack on one little thing, what do you think you would eat? What would you get?
My jam is sunsets and sunrises.
Ah.
So I would wake up, go to the gym, come back from the gym, go see the sunrise. Then go to work all day, and then on the way home, I'd stop at the bridge in Tampa, Florida, which is where I live, and watch the sunset. And I miss the sun. I didn't think I would miss her that much, but I really do.
Yeah, you don't get vitamin D down there. I didn't think about that.
How are you doing that?
The only supplement that I'm on is vitamin D, 2,000 IUs of vitamin D, because we knew that was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you don't have the sun, you're happy right now. You seem like just this vibrant dude, right? But when you don't have that sunshine, those rays of sun hitting you, I feel like it takes a toll, because people who live in the Northeast and when it snows all winter, they're sad little puppies.
Yeah, seasonal affective disorder is a real thing, right? So we want to know how it's gonna affect people, but I have a little bit of circadian rhythm because I get this. It lights up a little bit. This is as bright as it gets down here. So I get a little bit of that. And I do a lot of looking towards the ceiling, but I can't really see much of anything. I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of, visualization, thinking about where I'm going, what I'm doing, and why I'm doing this. I mean, it's not easy to do it, but it's done with a purpose, and it's very important, I think.
Yeah, it seems like you have a lot of reasons for human health, the health of a brain, for our trip to Mars. It seems like we've got a lot on the line with you down here, 22 feet underwater.
Yeah. And you know what? The thing I thought about, I just got back from Antarctica and I read Endurance before I went. And so you were like the Shackleton of our time right now. We need more people like you. And I mean, I don't mean that lightly, but do you think we need more people to explore and do what you do?
So it's so funny that you mentioned that. Like, we just found Shackleton's wreck, and you see that?
What?
That is the flag of the Explorers Club. Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, my girlfriend's company, and I have the greatest girlfriend in the world because she's a PhD in anthropology, archaeology. She owns a company that does underwater archaeology. It's based in Orlando, and they do
we'll be talking to her.
Sounds like we need her for the podcast as well.
You absolutely do. She's a rock star. You think I'm great. She's better than Indiana Jones by a lot. But this is the flag of the Explorers Club. That flag has been to the top of Mount Everest. It's been to the moon. It has now been underwater in this world record-setting event. And we need people. I'm the chairman of the Florida chapter of the Explorers Club. And let me tell you something. We are looking for applicants. And it's all, you need 2 fellows to put you in the club. And we basically do it by vote. So, yeah, we need cool people to be doing exploration. And, like Shackleton did, thank you for associating me with him. I'm honored. I'm not nearly as brave as he, but I appreciate the nod. So I take that as a great compliment. So,
wow.
But yeah, we need people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dr. Joseph Dituri, now 22 feet below the surface for, at the taping of this, 24 days. He is almost a quarter of the way done to his 100. The record as of right now is 73 days. He's expecting to shatter that. We're excited to get our audience to see what you are doing. And I want to check back in. I feel like day 99 or something. Can we talk to you again?
Listen, please do. Please do. Half my family's in Orlando. The love of my life is in Orlando. Yes, please. Let's check in and get those people in Orlando energized about this and what we're doing. And the more we get to know our environment, the better off we're all going to be. Everybody's going to learn from this, not just the people that you guys reach. I mean, the outreach on social media is incredible right now. I talked to Chile this morning, for crying out loud.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is so cool. Dr. Joe Dituri. At USF, professor, researcher, doing
Human
it all.
extraordinaire.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna go watch a sunset tonight because you got me all jacked up to be up here on the surface. We're excited to see what you find, and we hope you make some big breakthroughs from this, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the time. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching. You can download Florida's Fourth Estate from wherever you listen to podcasts or watch anytime on News 6 Plus. Just download the app to your TV and start watching.